The first alien probe crossed into human space with quiet confidence. Its creators had mapped thousands of star nations, charted trade routes, catalogued dangers. Human territory, by comparison, was a dark stain on the galactic charts wide, silent and avoided. Curiosity, arrogance, and hunger for expansion pushed them forward anyway. At the edge of the region, the stars looked normal. No minefields, no warning beacons, no border patrols. The probe transmitted back a single, puzzling note. Space appears empty. The Galactic Union approved a manned expedition soon after. If humans truly existed, they reasoned, they were either extinct or insignificant. Civilizations did not simply vanish from interstellar history without leaving ruins or signals. Something had gone wrong in the records, and they intended to correct it. The exploration fleet entered human space in a tight formation. Their sensors swept ahead, detecting nothing but cosmic background radiation and ancient starlight. It felt less like enemy territory and more like a forgotten graveyard. Then the long-range scanners began to fail. Not all at once, but one by one. Targeting arrays returned echoes that did not match physical laws. Navigation systems reported contradictory positions. The fleet slowed, commanders insisting on recalibration before proceeding further. That was when they noticed the silence was not natural. Stars ahead were dimmer than they should have been, not dead pit entire. Regions showed gravitational distortions too subtle to be weapons, too precise to be accidents. Space itself felt watched. The first ship disappeared without an explosion. One moment it was there, engines humming in perfect harmony with the fleet. The next, it was gone. No energy spike, no debris, no distress call, just an empty coordinate, where a cruiser had existed. Panic rippled through the formation. Emergency scans revealed nothing. No wormhole residue, no cloaking fields. The ship had not been destroyed, it had been removed. A message arrived across all channels. It was not a threat, not a demand, not even a warning. It was a simple line of translated text, stripped of emotion. You are past the point of return. Attempts to trace the signal failed instantly. The source was everywhere and nowhere, embedded within the fabric of space itself. The fleet turned as one, engines flaring as they attempted to retreat. Their jump drives refused to engage. Human space did not block faster than light travel, but rewrote it. The routes they had used to enter no longer existed, folded inward like erased memories. Navigation computers screamed errors as reality rejected their calculations. Another ship vanished. Then another. This time, the fleet detected something, an impossibly brief shadow, like a predator slipping between dimensions. The commander realized with cold terror that they were not facing weapons, platforms, or defense fleets. They were inside a system designed to hunt. Records began to unlock within the ship's databanks, files long dismissed as myth. Ancient warnings from extinct civilizations. Mentions of humans not as conquerors, but as wardens. A species that had survived something so catastrophic, so universe-ending, that they had reshaped physics to make sure it never returned. Human space was not an empire, it was a containment zone. The fleet's science officers finally understood why no signals ever came back. Ships were not destroyed because destruction left evidence. Humans did not want evidence. They wanted certainty. A third message arrived, clearer now, almost gentle. You were never meant to find us. One alien captain, driven by desperation, fired their weapons blindly into the void. The beams vanished mid-flight, absorbed by fields older than their civilization. In response, space closed around the ship like a fist. The crew felt no pain, no explosion, just sudden darkness as consciousness itself was switched off. The remaining vessels drifted, powerless. Gravity shifted. Time stretched. Some crew members swore they saw shapes moving between stars, vast constructs that were not machines, not alive, but something in between. Humanity emerged at last, not as ships, but as presence. Massive structures unfolded from invisibility, built around stars, anchored in higher dimensions. Their design was utilitarian, scarred, and ancient beyond comprehension. A final transmission echoed through the fleet. We stayed silent so others could live. You crossed the line, we buried our nightmares behind. One by one, the alien ships were taken. Not captured, but archived. Stored outside time, frozen as warnings that would never be seen. When the last vessel vanished, human space returned to silence. Beyond its borders, the galaxy continued to wonder why no ship ever came back, and humanity kept watch, unmoving, guarding a darkness so terrible that even now, the universe was safer believing humans were only a myth. Far beyond the frozen ships, deep within the lattice of human space, ancient systems adjusted themselves. Energies flowed along constructs older than recorded time, responding not to commands but to purpose. Humanity did not celebrate intrusions. Stop, they merely ensured balance remained intact. Long ago, before humans were called humans, they had learned the cost of curiosity without restraint. Their earliest expansions had uncovered something vast and patient, an intelligence that fed on civilizations once they grew loud enough to be noticed. The galaxy had not been empty then, it had been cleared. Humanity survived by accident and stubborn refusal to vanish. They learned quickly that victory was impossible. The entity later named only the silence below would not be destroyed. It could only be denied, so humans did what no other species had dared. They reshaped their future around containment instead of conquest. Stars were dimmed to hide energy signatures. Hyperlanes were bent inward, made unreliable, even lethal to outsiders. Entire branches of physics were rewritten locally, forming a cage that looked like emptiness from the outside. Human space became a wound stitched shut with unimaginable effort. The galaxy noticed, of course. Records spoke of human colonies, then silence. Traders whispered of ships that crossed the border and never returned. Councils debated, historians speculated, and eventually everyone agreed on the safest conclusion. Humans were gone. That lie protected trillions. Inside the containment zone, the archived alien fleet remained frozen, preserved at the moment of understanding. Humans did not study them for advantage. They studied them to measure risk, to learn how close curiosity had come to unraveling everything. Some human minds, partially merged with the constructs, observed the galaxy beyond their borders. They watched wars rise and fall, empires bloom and collapse. Each time expansion crept to near human space, subtle corrections were made. False data, distorted maps, rumors seeded among the stars. No one needed to know the truth. Yet the silence below was not dormant. It pressed endlessly against its prison, probing for weakness, drawn to intelligence like a predator to heat. Every incursion into human space was a stress test, a crack, waiting to form. The alien fleet had nearly caused one. Deep within the containment layer, alarms older than language had stirred. Human systems responded instantly, diverting power from forgers, from terraformed worlds, from even human lifespans themselves. Sacrifice was built into the design. Some humans aged centuries and seconds so others could live. So was the price of guardianship. The Council of Human Overseers convened, an ad in a room, but across thought itself. They debated a question that had haunted them for millennia. Should we remain silent forever? The galaxy was growing louder. New species rose faster than expected. Their technologies edged closer to dangerous thresholds. Sooner or later someone would tear open a door they could not close. Humanity could no longer rely on myth alone. Still, the memory of the silence below restrained them. Every simulation ended the same way. If the truth spread too widely, curiosity would overcome fear. Someone would try to weaponize the nightmare, and then everything would end. So humanity chose the same answer they always had. Wait, watch, contain, beyond the border. A distant civilization logged strange sensor data near the edge of human space. Faint distortions, echoes of vanished mass. Their scientists argued over the readings, dismissing them as errors. Exploration proposals were quietly denied. The lesson of the lost fleets lingered as an unease no one could explain. Inside the cage, the silence below recoiled, frustrated, starving. It remembered a time when the universe screamed with life, when civilizations lit the dark like beacons. Now there was only quiet, and humans, not heroes, not conquerors, not gods, just wardens standing between existence and extinction. As centuries passed, human space remained unchanged to dark, a voided scar on the galactic map. Children of other species grew up hearing bedtime warnings about the empty stars where ships vanished. No one knew how close they had come to annihilation. No one knew that humanity still stood watch. And as long as the border remained unbroken, no ship would ever come back, not because humans were cruel, but because silence was the last, fragile shield protecting the galaxy from a horror that should never be found again. Time moved differently inside human space. Centuries passed elsewhere, while within the containment lattice. Moments were measured by system strain and probability curves rather than clocks. Humanity no longer counted years. They counted near failures. The silence below adapted it always did. Subtle fluctuations appeared along the deepest layers of the prison. Patterns not seen since the earliest days of containment. The entity was learning, just as it always learned, using echoes of thought from archived minds and forgotten signals leaking in from the wider galaxy. Human overseers felt it before instruments confirmed it, a pressure in shared consciousness, a cold reminder that eternity favored patience. To compensate, humanity made another sacrifice. Entire star systems were shut down, their energy siphoned into reinforcement fields. Billions of automated habitats went dark, their human occupants already long integrated into higher dimensional substrates. Physical worlds were luxuries now. Far outside a new power rose in the galaxy, the Ascendant Compact did not believe in myths. They believed in progress, evidence, and dominance. Their explorers recovered fragments, distorted recordings, partial sensor ghosts from the edges of human space. To them, silence was not a warning, it was an invitation. Their first scout fleet vanished, just like all the others. But unlike previous civilizations, the Compact noticed something different. A delayed echo, a ripple that suggested containment, rather than destruction. They understood just enough to be dangerous. Human observers debated again. The galaxy was approaching a threshold where ignorance would no longer protect it. Sooner or later someone would breach the prison, not from outside, but by accident. And if the silence below slipped free even briefly, it would be enough. For the first time in eons, humanity prepared a message, not meant to deter, but to explain it. Would not be broadcast widely. That would be catastrophic. Instead, it would be delivered to a single mind, one capable of restraint, logic, and fear. The message was seeded into compact data streams, disguised as a corrupted archive from lost explorers. It took decades for their scientists to piece it together. When they did, the galaxy changed. The archive showed stars being eaten not by explosions, but by absence. Civilizations erased so completely that even entropy forgot them. It showed humans fleeing, not conquering, building walls instead of empires. Most terrifying of all, it showed that the silence below noticed attention. The Compact froze their expansion instantly. Borders hardened. Exploration mandates were rewritten. For the first time, a galactic power chose restraint over growth. Humanity watched, and for the first time in millennia, felt something dangerously close to relief. But the silence below noticed. The pressure increased. Containment layers screamed under stresses no physical structure should endure. Humanity diverted everything: processing power, stellar mass, even fragments of their own consciousness to hold the line. They could not do this forever. A final contingency activated. One never meant to be used unless the end was certain. Space began to contract, folding inward, reducing the surface area of the prison. Entire regions of the galaxy would be cut off, sacrificed to preserve the rest, if necessary. Humanity would take the silence below with them into permanent isolation. Outside, astronomers observed something unprecedented. The dark scar of human space began to shrink. Panic spread. Old myths resurfaced. Emergency councils convened. For the first time, the galaxy feared not human aggression, but human withdrawal. Because if the wardens were leaving, it meant only one thing: the nightmare they guarded against was no longer content to remain buried at the final boundary. Human overseers stood ready, not with weapons, not with fleets, but with resolve, hardened by extinction, survived and futures denied. If the silence below broke free, humanity would not retreat again. They would end everything, including themselves, to stop it. And somewhere, deep within the prison, the ancient horror pressed forward, curious once more, sensing minds, sensing fear, sensing that the quieted, hated might finally be breaking. The universe held its breath, because for the first time since the border was drawn, there was a chance, small, terrifying, and real, that a ship might come back, and if it did, it would mean the silence had failed.